Prologue. The world of Iroquois was a land of primeval dread. Its sky, an endless expanse of sickly green, loomed overhead like a heavy curtain drawn against the horrors below. The air was thick with a sulphurous miasma, a constant reminder of the ancient evil that lurked beneath the surface. The ground itself seemed alive, pulsating with a rhythmic thrum that resonated with an otherworldly beat. The Ylarkians, a humanoid species with skin the color of the lush ferns that surrounded their homes, lived their lives in a delicate balance with the world. They had always known their land was ancient and dangerous, but recent signs suggested that the ancient terrors were stirring once more. Scene 1. The discovery location, the Great Plains of Iroquois. The Great Plains of Iroquois were a tapestry of verdant ferns and towering ancient trees. Dinosaurs, massive and lumbering, roamed freely, their roars echoing through the vast expanse. The Ylarkians had built their homes here, weaving their lives into the very fabric of this ancient land. They were a species of keen hunters and skilled survivors, attuned to the subtle shifts in their environment. Erath, a young hunter with a reputation for both skill and bravery, ventured out into the underbrush on a routine hunt. The forest was unusually silent, the usual cacophony of life replaced by an unsettling quiet. As he followed a narrow game trail, he noticed the tracks in the mud. They were massive, far larger than any creature he had ever encountered. The claws that had made these tracks seemed to dig into the very essence of the earth, leaving deep, distorted impressions. Erath's heartbeat quickened as he examined the tracks. They were arranged in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate, as if the creature had moved with purpose rather than aimlessly. He crouched low, his senses alert, and traced the tracks back to the village with mounting concern. His thoughts raced with possibilities, but none made sense in the context of his world. When he arrived at the village, he found Elder Maloth, a wise and weathered figure known for his knowledge of ancient lore. Maloth was examining a strange artifact he had found, an ancient relic that seemed to hum with an eerie energy. Erath relayed what he had discovered, his voice steady but his eyes betraying his fear. Maloth's face paled as he listened, the old elder's eyes, once sharp and clear, now clouded with apprehension. "These are the marks of the elders," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of awe and terror. "Beings of unimaginable power who once ruled over us with cruelty and terror. They have returned to hunt us." The words hung in the air like a death knell. The village, known for its resilience, now faced an enemy beyond its understanding. The stories of the elders, long thought to be mere legends, suddenly became terrifyingly real. Scene 2. The Gathering Storm location, the village of Iroquois. The village of Iroquois, nestled among the great ferns and ancient trees, had always been a haven of serenity. Now, it was a place of fear and frantic activity. The villagers gathered in the central square, their faces drawn and eyes wide with anxiety. The once tranquil place was now filled with a palpable sense of dread. Maloth called an emergency council, summoning the village's bravest warriors and most knowledgeable elders. The air was thick with tension as the council convened, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the communal fire. Maloth explained the situation, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of the truth. "The elders are ancient gods of darkness," Maloth said, his voice echoing with authority. "They were banished long ago, but now they have returned. They feed on fear and despair, and their presence is a blight upon our world. We must prepare ourselves for a fight against a force that defies comprehension." The villagers listened in stunned silence. The reality of the situation was sinking in, and fear began to give way to resolve. Preparations were made with a sense of urgency. Barricades were erected, and every available weapon was sharpened and readied. The village's defenses were reinforced as best as possible, but the knowledge that they were up against beings of divine power made every effort seem inadequate. Erath and a group of seasoned hunters were chosen to venture into the heart of the forest to confront the threat. Their faces were grim as they prepared for the mission. They knew that the stakes were higher than they had ever been in their lives. The once familiar forest was now a place of foreboding, each shadow seeming to whisper of the coming darkness. Prologue. The world of Urukal was a land of primeval dread. Its sky, an endless expanse of sickly green, loomed overhead like a heavy curtain drawn against the horrors below. The air was thick with a sulphurous miasma, a constant reminder of the ancient evils that lurked beneath the surface. The ground itself seemed alive, pulsating with a rhythmic thrum that resonated with an otherworldly beat. The Halarkians, a humanoid species with skin the color of the lush ferns that surrounded their homes, lived their lives in a delicate balance with the world. They had always known their land was ancient and dangerous, but recent signs suggested that the ancient terrors were stirring once more. Scene 1. The Discovery Scene. 3. The first encounter location. The dense forest of Zathril. The forest of Zathril was a tangled maze of ancient trees and creeping vines. As night fell, the canopy above thickened, blocking out the moonlight and plunging the forest into an oppressive darkness. The hunters, led by Erath, moved with practiced stealth, their senses heightened as they navigated the labyrinthine paths. The air grew colder with each step, and the ground seemed to pulse with an unsettling energy. The forest was eerily silent, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant roar of a dinosaur. Every sound was magnified. Every shadow seemed to move with a life of its own. The hunters pressed on, their breaths visible in the frigid air. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees growing more twisted and gnarled as they ventured deeper. The oppressive atmosphere made it difficult to think, each moment weighed down by an unspoken sense of doom. Then, the silence was shattered by a bone-chilling scream. Erath whirled around, his heart racing as he saw Tarek, one of his companions, suspended in midair. Tarek's body convulsed violently, as if caught in the grip of an invisible force. His screams grew louder, more desperate, before abruptly ceasing. The sight was enough to paralyze even the bravest of hearts. The remaining hunters scattered in terror, their faces etched with fear. Erath, rooted to the spot, watched as the darkness around them seemed to coalesce into a shape, a living shadow that writhed and pulsed with malevolent intent. The darkness seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a way that defied natural laws. The elders had arrived, their presence an affront to reality itself. Erath's weapons felt useless against such an intangible foe. He could feel the cold, suffocating aura of the elders pressing in on him, a reminder of their ancient, unknowable power. Scene 4. The Descent into Terror. Location: the village of Urukal. The survivors returned to the village, their faces haunted by what they had witnessed. The once thriving community was now a place of fear and chaos. The villagers huddled together, their voices a murmur of anxious speculation. The village's defenses, hastily constructed, were now a feeble bulwark against the encroaching darkness. Maloth, though visibly shaken, took charge with a grim determination. The villagers gathered around him, their faces a mixture of fear and hope. The old elder spoke with a voice that carried the weight of ancient knowledge and desperate hope. "The elders are not mere creatures of flesh and blood," Maloth said, his voice carrying the gravity of their situation. "They are ancient gods, who thrive on fear and despair. We must stand together and fight with every ounce of strength we possess. Our only hope is to confront them directly and keep them from overwhelming us. The night was alive with tension as the villagers prepared for the impending assault. The once familiar fires now cast eerie shadows that seemed to dance with a life of their own. The elders, with their ability to manipulate reality, made the night feel like a living nightmare. As the darkness deepened, the villagers' fear was palpable. The ground seemed to tremble beneath their feet, and the air grew colder with each passing moment. The villagers, their faces lit by the flickering flames, awaited the onslaught with a mixture of dread and determination. Scene 5. The final confrontation location. The heart of the village, where the central fire once roared with warmth, was now a battleground. The fires had dimmed, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. The elders emerged from the shadows, their forms shifting and twisting, as if they were not entirely bound by the laws of reality. Erath and Maloth stood at the forefront of the final stand, their faces etched with resolve. The villagers, though frightened, rallied around them. The elders moved with an unnatural grace, their very presence distorting reality and making the world seem like a nightmarish landscape. Maloth began an ancient incantation, his voice steady despite the strain. The ritual was a desperate measure, a last-ditch effort to banish the elders back to the void from which they had come. The spell required a sacrifice, and Maloth knew that he would not survive. As Maloth chanted, the air crackled with dark energy. The elders, sensing the threat, unleashed their full power. Storms of lightning and torrents of shadow crashed down upon the village, their might overwhelming the defenders. The sky was a roiling mass of unnatural energy, and the ground quaked beneath the elders' steps. Erath fought with every ounce of strength he had, his weapons barely making an impact against the divine terror. The village's defenses crumbled under the relentless assault. The blinding light of the spell erupted from the center of the village, pushing back the encroaching darkness and driving the elders into a furious rage. Scene 6. The aftermath location, the ruins of Urukal. When the light finally faded, the village lay in ruins. The once thriving homes were reduced to smoldering wreckage, and the forest around them was scarred by the battle. The survivors emerged from their hiding places, their faces marked by grief and exhaustion. Erath stood amidst the devastation, the weight of his losses heavy upon him. The elders were gone, but the price had been steep. The village was shattered, its people scattered or lost. The legend of the Eldritch Hunt would be remembered for generations, a stark reminder of the ancient terror that had visited their world. The green sky of Urukal remained, an indifferent witness to the horrors that had unfolded beneath it. The ground still trembled with a distant, echoing threat. The survivors knew that their world was fragile, a place where ancient evils could return at any moment. As the Yalarkians began to rebuild, they did so with a wary vigilance. The shadows of the forest seemed darker now, and the ground beneath them still pulsed with the memory of the ancient terror. The stories of the Eldritch Hunt would be told around the fire, a cautionary tale of the gods that had come to hunt them, and a reminder of the fragile balance between their world and the dark forces that lay just beyond their understanding. The echoes of the Elders' Hunt lingered in the minds of the survivors, a chilling reminder of the thin line between their world and the darkness that lurked just beyond. The Eldritch Hunt had ended, but the fear remained, a constant shadow over their lives.